Year 11. Welcome to your revision for Half-caste by John Agard. In your poetry revision, you should analyse the structure of the poem as well as the language. If you are aiming for a higher grade, such as a B, a A and an A star, you need to use the correct terminology. If we look at the structure of the poem, we can see that one of the key features is enjambment. The poem is one continuous rant with very little punctuation. This use of enjambment allows John Agard to show you his frustration. As the poem continues and continues and builds, we see that he is getting more frustrated and more angry through the development of his comparisons. Again, when discussing structure, we can see that the stanzas are very thin. This could imply that John Agard has only told us half of his story, which emphasises exactly what he says. The idea of the stanzas being thin could represent the fact that half of his story is missing. In addition, the lack of restrictions of regularity in terms of line length and stanza length, as well as sentence structure and punctuation, indicate a desire for John Agard to be open and free and honest with the reader. If we begin our analysis of language, we can see immediately that the poem is written in non-standard English. Explain yourself, what you mean when you say half-caste. We can see here that the non-standard English and the phonetic spelling allows John Agard to emphasise the fact that he is not from our country and that he is a non-native speaker, and he is speaking exactly as he would if he was from his own country. The poem begins with a short, sharp, three-line stanza in which Agard explains that he is standing on one leg because he is half-caste. It's as though he is addressing the reader and saying, "What do you expect?" In addition, when he says yourself and you, he is addressing the reader directly. This is almost confrontational, and it makes the reader feel guilty about any judgments we may have made. Besides the non-standard English used, the imagery John Agard uses is very humorous and provides an interesting juxtaposition to the criticisms being levelled at certain people. In the second stanza, Agard takes famous people, Picasso and Tchaikovsky for instance, but he doesn't give their names capital letters. He says, "You mean Tchaikovsky?" Apologies. "You mean Tchaikovsky?" And also when he mentions Picasso, he doesn't give these characters capital letters, which suggests it's almost as if he doesn't owe them the respect they deserve. The images he uses here are the red and green canvas and Tchaikovsky mixing the black and white key. These images become more potent because Agard is talking about the mixture of different things, whether that be colour or the obvious colours, black and white. This would be obviously a direct parallel to black and white people. Agard's point is that people of mixed nationality should still be accepted. It should not matter if they have one black parent and one white parent. Obviously, he is seeing that Picasso's paintings are just as beautiful, even if he mixes colours, and Tchaikovsky's music was just as powerful and just as influential, even though he mixed black keys and white keys. If we look more closely at the third stanza, Agard presents us with the absurd idea of him being half-caste physically when he talks about the keen half of his ear and the keen half of his eye. Once again, he is just reiterating the absurdity of the meaning and of the word half-caste. He says he is looking at the reader with the keen half of his ear, and his eye, as though his ears and his eyes would be split in half because he is of mixed parentage. He continues in this humorous vein, going on to say that he would only offer half a hand when being introduced to the person he is addressing, and that he just closes half an eye and dreams half a dream when asleep. John Agard is in fact accusing the reader of having a narrow mind. He is in effect accusing them of being the ones having half a mind, functioning with half of their ears and half of their eyes by using such a ludicrous term as half-caste.